I want to go all philosophical on you today. I want to talk to you about known and unknown. I was having a really good lunch today with a guy. He's in the middle of a job search, and we were just kind of talking in general about what it takes to be a good employee. And I told him that the job search would actually make him a better employee. I think we hear this sometimes. We hear people say, the best time to look for a job is when you already have a job. And that's true, but they're saying it because they're saying that companies, and this is absolutely 100% true, think you're desperate if you're unemployed. My point was that a job search will give you skills that you don't currently have. It's very easy to get siloed. And as this guy pointed out, he'd never had to look for a job before now. 20, 25, 30 years. I don't know how fully old he was, but he's always done it through networking. And now he's had to go out and figure out how to do what I do as a headhunter. So what happens is in the job search, you're forced to expand yourself, to move beyond your comfort zone. And more than that, you're forced to think about how to sell yourself, what you do, how to track what you do. These are useful skills come promotion time. They're useful skills for learning or picking up new skills, for thinking of new ways to do old things, and for thinking of old ways to do new things. And it brought a story to mind. It was that engineer that I worked with out in California who was telling me about a Mormon family member out in Salt Lake City who was working for one of the big chip processor companies and came across a computer problem that he just could not solve. It was infuriating him. He worked on it for forever. This is a very smart guy. And at one point, he was so frustrated that he picked up his hard drive, marched out of the offices and down towards the Great Salt Lake, lifted the hard drive up above his head and said, "That's impossible to do this. The only way was if I did this, this, and this." And realized that in that moment of frustration, having totally given up and done something that is so insane these days he'd probably be fired. He rips his computer out, walks down to the Great Salt Lake, and gives himself the answer. I want to drop the computer on my head there, but what had happened is that one is he did have the answer. He just couldn't get past what he knew was possible and what was not possible. It's called knowing the unknown. See, by definition, you only know what you know. Anything outside of what you know is unknown. And you have this thing inside of you called an ego that doesn't like it when you don't know something. This is why it's so difficult to actually convince people of anything using facts. In fact, the human brain shuts off when it hears facts. We prefer stories. So if I'm trying to teach you something and I give you facts, you don't want to hear it because I'm trying to tell you don't know something. If I tell you a story, though, it's like a certain portion of your brain alters and you're more receptive to actually learning because I'm entertaining you as opposed to trying to tell you something. I'm not telling you you're wrong or don't know as much. I'm just entertaining you, which means your brain's an entirely different kind of mode for learning. The reason this is important in job searches is that we assume that we're supposed to have certain skills. If you've ever done something like put up curtains or try to fix a motor or just certain things that as an adult you should know how to do. Do your taxes, sign up for a bank account, not get scammed by someone on the phone. These are things you feel you should know. And if it ever happens, it really bothers you. And one of those things is we're supposed to be able to get jobs. We're supposed to know how to interview, how to put together a resume, how to send a thank you card to our grandmother when she sends us a $10 check. These are all things we feel we should know. And in a job search, especially something that is so important to us, that affects our existence because a paycheck can often define whether or not we have a home, put food on our table. Not knowing it is so frustrating that our ego rises up to protect us. The ego tells you, no, it's not you. Whoever is causing this problem by bringing the issue up, they're the horrible ones. But of course, if you're in that state, you can't react and you can't learn. You can't do something new, which means if you don't have the experience of searching for a job, and most of us don't. The truth is, if you haven't done sales and recruiting, you don't know how to look for a job. That's it. If you haven't done the job search, you don't have the skills, yet you feel you're supposed to. So what happens is your ego rises up, and it's not until you reach that, like a rock bottom for a drug addict, until you reach the point where you're so frustrated that you're willing to take your computer and throw it into the Great Lake. that you actually begin to learn. And yet that is the moment when you most are so receptive that you learn at an increased rate. It's very important. It's very important to understand this. So, one of the things you have to learn to do, you don't necessarily have to hit rock bottom. You just have to learn how you yourself learn. You have to learn where your frustrations are and approach it from different manners. This is one of the reasons I think games are an amazing way to teach people, because if I don't come at you trying to teach you something, but instead make it a fun game, I think that you can be very successful in training folks. And I see a lot of potential in those. I will say this. I think this guy's going to be real successful. He told me a bunch of great ideas. I'm not going to share them with you because they were his ideas. But I think he gets his industry and is going to do very well. I'm pretty impressed with him in general. But who knows? Maybe 2 years ago I would have gone, oh, God, none of these siloed guys in a dying industry. Not the case today. Not the case. In fact, he's taking what's good about his industry and not going into social media, but understanding how to use the business, understand how he has made changes in his personal life and his business life and apply them to how people communicate. He has stretched himself. He has learned how to do a job search. In fact, he was very impressive. Didn't need my help. Had understood what he was doing, was doing very well, and I'm sure he'll be employed. But he had to hit that point. He had to hit that point of frustration. And I think that we all do at some point. So it's something to think about the next time you're angry when someone's giving you advice. Maybe instead of listening to them, you should just pull out a game of Monopoly or maybe a bedtime story. Good luck out there.